Charles Bronson, one of the most famous action stars in Hollywood, with the image of a lonely hero on the screen. However, few people know that behind the halo is a life full of pain and tragedy. From a poor boy to an action star, Charles Bronson had to face unexpected losses and challenges. But was his life really as people thought? Why did a big star have such a sad ending? Let's explore the life and tragic ending of Charles Bronson in this video. Childhood and family. Charles Bronson, whose real name is Charles Dennis Bukinski, was born on November 3, 1921, in Ehrenfeld, a small town in Pennsylvania, USA, where his family lived in poverty. His father, Walter Bukinski, was a coal miner, and his mother, Mary, was a housewife, taking care of their 14 children. His family was a working-class poor, and they faced many difficulties in their daily lives. When Bronson was a child, the Ehrenfeld area where he lived was mainly inhabited by families working in the coal industry, and it was heavily affected by the Great Depression of the 1930s. Bronson lived in a shabby house, lacking in material things, with very harsh living conditions. The whole family lived in a small house, without electricity, clean water, and without basic amenities. Their lives were largely shaped by the work in the mines and the instability of the economy. Meals were often simple, and sometimes not enough to feed all the family members. A prominent story in Bronson's life during his childhood was when he had to start working at a very early age to support his family. During his childhood years, he had to do manual labor, including working in car repair shops and other odd jobs to earn money. This not only provided him with money to support his life, but also taught him valuable lessons about independence and the value of honest work. It was through these jobs that Bronson developed a strong body and a resilient spirit, two factors that would help him overcome challenges in his later life. The feeling of poverty and deprivation during his childhood had a profound impact on Bronson's personality and outlook on life. His childhood was filled with hardships, where he was constantly worried about food and days without enough money to spend. One of the biggest influences on Bronson during his childhood was his experience of injustice and the harshness of life. At that time, class distinctions were very strong, and his family, of Polish origin, often faced racism and contempt from those around them. Bronson felt discriminated against by society, but this only made him stronger and determined never to let others look down on him. Despite the hardships in life, Bronson's family always maintained a spirit of solidarity. His parents were hardworking people, and they always encouraged him and his siblings to study, work hard, and respect others. These lessons stayed with Bronson throughout his life. His outlook on the world and success was shaped by those difficult years. He believed that only hard work and never giving up could change his fate. The hardships formed in him a strong determination to overcome all challenges, and this was evident in his roles, where he always played tough, resilient, and unyielding characters. So what made him go from a poor man to an action icon, loved and honored all over the world? Let's explore the journey from the first steps to the peak of Charles Bronson's career in the world of cinema. Acting career and turning point. Charles Bronson began his acting career in the early 1950s when he participated in Hollywood films with small supporting roles. At that time, he was known as Charles Bukinski and was given unremarkable roles, usually supporting characters, villains, or soldiers. These roles did not make him an immediate star, but they were the first important steps in his long journey. At that time, Bronson possessed a distinctive appearance, with a hard face, deep eyes, and a serious appearance. However, due to the lack of any outstanding acting style at that time, he was still unable to reach the peak of his career. Bronson had to compete with many big Hollywood stars in that decade, and he was not a bright name from the beginning. However, one of the important milestones in Bronson's career was when he was cast as the villain in the film The Magnificent Seven, 1960, one of the most famous films in the Western genre. In the film, Bronson played an assassin, Jack, who joined the fight against the invaders. Although this was an impressive role, his career still did not take off. However, this role helped Bronson start to attract public attention and was one of the first steps that led him to the bigger limelight. Charles Bronson's big break came in the early 1970s when he rose to become a prominent Hollywood action star. His career peaked with his role in Death Wish, 1974, a work that completely changed Bronson's acting career and made him a cinematic icon. Death Wish tells the story of Paul Kersey, a man living in New York, who lost his wife and daughter in a brutal crime attack. After this great loss, Kersey becomes a fierce revenge who takes it upon himself to bring justice by hunting down and destroying criminals. This role helped Charles Bronson portray a new image, a lonely, sorrowful, but determined and strong hero. Death Wish was a huge commercial and critical success, and Bronson immediately became an icon of the action film genre, a representative of the image of the resilient revenge. Following the success of Death Wish, Bronson quickly became a beloved action star around the world. His subsequent action films, including The Mechanic, 1972, The Dirty Dozen, 1967, and Hard Times, 1970, continued to establish Bronson as a lone hero, willing to fight for justice and constantly fight against the evil forces in society. Charles Bronson successfully created the image of the lone hero in action films. This image is characterized by a tough, independent character who often faces injustice and hardships in society. After Death Wish, he continued to play similar roles, where his character never bowed to difficulties and always stood up to fight for justice. In The Mechanic, 1972, Bronson played Arthur Bishop, a professional assassin with a special skill in cleaning up designated targets. Bishop is a cold, emotionless man who always does his work with precision and meticulousness, but faces problems in his relationships, especially when he begins to train a young apprentice. This film opened up a new side of Bronson's career, showing him not only as a revenge, but also as a man of principles, his morals. In addition, in The Dirty Dozen, 1967, although Bronson's role was not the main one, he portrayed a tough, loyal and strong character, ready to fight for his ideals. This film is one of the most outstanding works of the war genre and helped Bronson further affirm the image of a resilient soldier in the hearts of the audience. Not only stopping at becoming an action star in American films, Bronson was also known as a symbol of resilience in European countries and Japan, where he was loved for his image as a lone hero, always fighting to the end for his ideals. Films such as Hard Times, 1975, and Mr. Majestic, 1974, continued to clarify the image of a strong man, constantly fighting against evil forces. Throughout his career, Charles Bronson not only played action heroes, but also served as an ideal role model for those who love the image of the lone hero in cinema. Charles Bronson is not only famous for his brilliant acting career, but also has a marriage full of ups and downs, especially his deep relationship with actress Jill Ireland. Marriages and family. The two married in 1968, and their relationship is considered one of the most prominent and impressive couples in Hollywood entertainment. The love story between Bronson and Ireland has attracted great attention because not only their career, but also their love has become a source of inspiration for many people. Jill Ireland, a beautiful and talented actress, met Bronson when she was on the rise in her career in the film industry. Their union was not only love, but also companionship and mutual support in both life and work. Ireland played a very important role in Bronson's career, helping him overcome difficult times and find great encouragement in life. However, Bronson's married life was not always rosy. Although the couple had their happy moments, their family life faced many challenges, especially when Jill Ireland was diagnosed with breast cancer in the 1980s. The disease severely affected the Bronson family's lives and made their marriage very challenging. Ireland underwent many surgeries and painful treatments, while Bronson, with his strong and resilient nature, constantly supported his wife throughout her battle with the disease. During his years of fighting cancer, Bronson showed resilience and unconditional love for Ireland. Although their family life became strained due to the disease, their relationship remained strong. Stories of Bronson's care and love for his wife during this time have inspired many. He was not only a husband, but also a steadfast companion, always by Ireland's side during the most difficult times. However, after many years of battling cancer, Jill Ireland passed away in 1990, leaving Charles Bronson with great pain in his heart. Ireland's death was not only a great loss to him, but also a major turning point in Bronson's life. The painful experience of losing Jill Ireland. In 1990, Charles Bronson faced an unforgettable loss in his life, the passing of his beloved wife, Jill Ireland, after a long and painful battle with breast cancer. Ireland's death was not only the loss of a wife, but also the loss of a companion who had been with him through difficult years. Throughout Jill's illness, Bronson was always by her side, caring for her and sharing her pain. But in the end, the terrible disease took away the person he loved most. Jill Ireland's death left Charles Bronson not only in physical pain, but also immersed in deep sadness. The long months of his wife's illness were not only a physical challenge, but also a mental burden for Bronson. He never fully recovered from this loss, and even in the years after Jill's death, the pain was always present in his life. Those close to Bronson said that he not only grieved the death of his wife, but also felt like he had lost an important part of his life, a companion who had always shared all the joys and sorrows, both in his personal life and in his career. At that time, Bronson not only faced loneliness, but also had to endure loneliness in his heart, when there was no one to fill the void left by Ireland. He spent what seemed like endless days in a quiet and cold world. The feeling of loss and loneliness was all-encompassing, making it impossible for Charles Bronson to find peace in his soul. This was also reflected in his roles after Jill's death. Although Bronson continued his film career, the sadness in his eyes was palpable whenever he appeared on screen. Throughout Ireland's illness, Bronson was resilient and always displayed an optimistic attitude, even when things seemed to be falling apart. But when Jill died, all that resilience seemed to disappear, giving way to a deep sadness and an emptiness that could not be filled. He had not only lost a wife, but also a close friend who had been a source of spiritual support for him throughout his career. Bronson's grief over the loss of his wife was not only a personal pain, but also a change in his life, both mentally and emotionally. Although he continued to work and occasionally participated in film projects, it was clear that he no longer found complete joy in his work. Friends and colleagues noticed that Bronson was no longer as bright as before, and his eyes lacked the passion they once had. Years after Jill Ireland's death, Bronson still kept her image in his heart. He never forgot the moments they spent together, the conversations, the beautiful memories they built. However, even in times when he thought he had found a little peace in life, Jill's shadow was always there, following his every step. Jill Ireland's death ranged from Charles Bronson, not only emotionally, but also in the way he faced life. Although Bronson was not someone who easily expressed his emotions, this loss made him more thoughtful and less open with the public. After his wife's death, Bronson lived in a private world, where sadness and memories of Jill were always indelible. Bronson never truly recovered from this loss, Ireland's death left a huge hole in his heart, and Bronson continued to live with that pain for the rest of his life. In the years following his wife's death, Bronson married Kim Weeks in 1998, but the relationship could not replace the place Ireland had left in his heart. Decline in career and health. After the death of Jill Ireland, Charles Bronson entered a difficult period in his life. Not only did he face a painful loss, but he also had to face major changes in his career and health. Along with the absence of his wife, Bronson's image in the public eye gradually faded, and his film career no longer maintained the hot level as in the 1970s and 1980s. In the years after Jill Ireland's death, Bronson appeared less in major film projects. The films he participated in no longer attracted the attention of the audience as before. Although he continued to act, many of the projects Bronson participated in were small works, not as influential as the famous films of the time. These works were mainly low-quality action films or projects that did not receive much attention. Bronson was no longer the strong action star he once was, and this only added to the sense of loneliness and loss he felt after his wife's death. One of the reasons for Bronson's decline was the change in the film industry. In the 1990s, Hollywood began to shift towards newer, younger action films, while Bronson was entering middle age. New, younger, and more dynamic actors gradually replaced him in action roles, making Bronson's image obsolete. The revenge image he built in films like Death Wish and The Mechanic was no longer suitable for the new trend of cinema. In terms of health, aging also began to seriously affect Bronson. When he turned 70, his health was declining. The years of acting in action movies, with their grueling scenes and physically demanding roles, began to take their toll on his body. Previous injuries and work pressures gradually took their toll. Bronson was no longer as fit as he was when he was younger, and the constant pain from previous injuries prevented him from participating in film projects as before. Coupled with age-related health problems, Bronson was no longer the strong and resilient man the public once loved. Faced with declining health and career, he gradually became less visible to the public. The film promotions or entertainment events he participated in also became less frequent, causing Bronson's image to continue to fade in the eyes of fans. In addition, changes in his personal life also contributed to his lack of interest in work. Although Bronson married Kim Weeks in 1998, the relationship could not fill the void left by Jill Ireland in his heart. However, Kim Weeks remained by Bronson's side in his final years, helping him overcome his loneliness and grief, although she could not replace the place Ireland had left. With his career and health declining, Charles Bronson became a faded figure in the film industry. His name no longer resonated as it once did, and the younger generation of audiences seemed to no longer remember his excellent roles. Bronson had become an action icon of the previous decade, but in the eyes of many, he was gradually becoming a part of the past. Have you ever wondered what a legend like Charles Bronson had to go through in real life after his great achievements on screen? Although he was famous for his powerful action roles, few people know that his life was filled with countless pains and losses. So what was the end of this arduous life? The tragic ending. Charles Bronson, one of Hollywood's legendary action stars, passed away on August 30th, 2003, at the age of 81. His passing was not only the end of a long and eventful life, but also marked the farewell to a cinematic icon who had conquered millions of audiences around the world with his powerful, decisive, and tough roles. Bronson passed away in a hospital in Los Angeles after suffering from pneumonia for a long time. This disease had seriously damaged his health in the last years of his life. Pneumonia is a particularly dangerous disease for the elderly, and in Bronson's case, the physical weakness due to age combined with other health problems made it impossible for him to fight the disease. In the last days of his life, Bronson was hospitalized for treatment, and despite the dedicated care of doctors, he ultimately could not overcome the disease. Bronson's death not only caused heartache for his family and friends, but also made many fans around the world feel a sense of loss. He passed away quietly, without the laughter or revival from the action movies that had captivated generations of audiences. The image of a tough, resilient man in the movies no longer appeared. Instead, there was a quiet old man, associated with the challenging final years of his life. Bronson's passing was seen as a tragic end, not only because of the illness he faced, but also because his life was already filled with so much pain and loss. Many fans still remember Bronson as an irreplaceable action star. His famous films, such as Death Wish, The Mechanic, The Magnificent Seven, and The Dirty Dozen, are still beloved and rewatched to this day. His roles, especially the lonely, heartbroken but resilient man in revenge films, had a profound impact on American and global cinema. Bronson brought to life characters that would later become icons in the action genre. Charles Bronson, with his brilliant career and the image of a lonely hero on the screen, had to face a life full of tragedy. But what legacy did he leave behind? Legacy. After the death of Jill Ireland, Charles Bronson's career no longer maintained its strong momentum as before. In his later years, he rarely participated in major film projects, and gradually, his name was no longer mentioned in conversations about Hollywood. Bronson, who was once an icon of action cinema in previous decades, is now just a shadow in the industry he devoted his life to. However, this does not mean that he is no longer loved. Bronson's roles in films such as Death Wish or The Mechanic are still considered symbols of resilience and strength. However, he still faced a significant decline in his health when he entered his 70s. Health problems began to affect his ability to work, causing Bronson to gradually appear less in public and even less in films. Age-related illnesses, combined with the mental stress after the death of his wife, created a difficult period in his life. On August 30, 2003, Charles Bronson died at the age of 81 at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles from pneumonia. His death marked not only the passing of a film legend, but also the end of a life filled with tragedy. Although his on-screen career had reached its peak, Bronson's personal life was filled with suffering. The loss of his wife, hardship in his later years, and health problems gradually led him into obscurity. However, the legacy that Charles Bronson left behind still lives on in the hearts of fans. The films he starred in are still considered classics of the action genre. The strength and indomitability in his roles have become a model for many generations of actors to come. The image of the lone hero, always fighting for justice, despite being treated cruelly by life, has been imprinted in the minds of viewers. Charles Bronson is not only an action star, but also a symbol of a man who fought not only on screen, but also with difficulties in real life. Although he did not have a happy ending in life, Bronson's contributions to cinema and his impressive roles will always be remembered, creating a solid place in Hollywood history. What do you think about Charles Bronson's challenging life? Can his brilliant career make up for the losses in his personal life? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting updates. Thank you and see you in the next videos.